Good morning, everybody. Good to be here, and I'm very much looking forward to this discussion with the panel today. Responsible gambling has been very much defined, from my understanding of it, in terms of problem gamblers, and as though there's this line that exists and there are problem gamblers on this side of the line that a lot of attention is paid to.
I think responsible gambling is very much a contested term and a misunderstood term, and I think, amongst industry, academics, governments, policymakers, etc., we don't have a good understanding of what responsible gambling means, and I don't think consumers have a good understanding of what responsible gambling means as well. And so there has developed over the years this sort of dichotomy, as you said, Jenny, between problem gambling and responsible gambling. And I think the problem with that is that people who are being very much harmed from gambling without having a diagnosable gambling problem, so your low risk and moderate risk gamblers, really don't see that responsible gambling message as being relevant to them. If we're really serious about responsible gambling and about reducing and minimising and preventing harm, we also need to target, I think, our efforts and our messages at low risk and moderate risk.
That would significantly change the way it's dealt with.
I'd also suggest that the gamble responsibly message, while it's a start, it just doesn't have a call to action. It doesn't tell people what to do. People don't know what, being told to gamble responsibly and just, ad nauseum, I think really does minimal good. I mean, I don't think it does any harm, but there's a lot of consumer scepticism around that. So we need to be providing behaviours and calls to action in our messaging about how people can actually gamble responsibly.
Brent, what sort of messages would be useful, do you think, to young people and to gamblers, particularly at the early stages of gambling?
I suppose for me now I've got a family, it makes you realise how important they are to you. So messaging like, have you played with your son today, or just things like that actually make you think, what are the most important things to you, to the individual, not sitting there all day and gambling and basically gambling all your money away. So messaging around sort of your family, I think that would really stick to people who have problems.
The electronic pre-commitment system can really be a supportive help for something like this, but it needs to operate in very much a universal system, so it has to operate across all operators. So if you're talking in the online environment, it would have to be a system that then took in all the different operators around Australia, so that when you've got different accounts, you can set your limit, but it covers all of those accounts. And it would need to be, for someone like you, it would need to be a system where once you hit that limit, you're prevented from going further. Because for you, if you hit that limit and it just told you you'd hit that limit, it probably, in your situation, I would suggest, wouldn't have stopped you from what you were talking about. So you would have needed that supportive element that actually stops you from gambling further at that time.
It seems to me that the elephant in the room that hasn't really been addressed is the advertising aimed specifically at kids. Watching the Brownlow medal, every second ad was a gambling ad. And this normalises gambling for these young kids.
Nadine, can I get your response to concerns about the extent of advertising?
Yeah. Well, look, David Attenborough, the head of Tabcorp, is one of the AGC's directors, and I think he's made it perfectly plain in the Australian Financial Review that he does think that this is a matter for nationally consistent regulation. I think there are, quite a few voluntary codes that advertisers subscribe to, or that gambling advertisers subscribe to. There are gambling advertising rules, but I think, the research overseas, Per Bind would say that it can, if there's excessive advertising, create quite a deal of negative sentiment. I think there also are certainly risks to children if that advertising is prevalent and around in the community, as we've seen, perhaps this year with train stations and messaging. And I think it's good the Victorian government is taking steps there also.
It's a spend. Every dollar that you put into your account, into your betting account, should be considered discretionary spend, not that you're going to back something at 5 to 1 and what are you going to spend your winnings on. So the glorification of wagering ads needs to stop.
I'd also like to mention another aspect of advertising that we haven't spoken about to date, and that's the offering of inducements, the advertising of inducements to bet. So things like free or bonus bets, cashback rebates, those sorts of things, are very strongly pushed in advertising. And we did a study last year that looked at inducements, and really, when you look at what's on offer, many of them go absolutely counter to the principles of responsible gambling.